William Booth said, the greatness of man's power is in his surrender. It was never in his muscles. It was never in the strength of man. It was never in his dominance. It was in his surrender. Our hunger attracts encounters. Everyone in the Bible who knew they needed a Savior got what they needed from Jesus. Desperation pushes everything else aside. Revelation waits for the lovers and passes over the observers, skeptics, and religious. For me, when I had a breakdown last year, it got to the point where I had no other option but to surrender my time, which for me is my most valuable thing, my time. I had to give myself to the word and to prayer as if my life depended on it, because it did. In a way that when I knew I would come out of that season, I didn't have the option of ever going back. See, I think there's moments in life we're handed grace to make a decision. God doesn't force us to do anything. And we have look at the world right now, it's obvious. When you make a choice, repercussions happen, but he gives us moments in our life where there's a grace to take a step. And all he's wanting is a step. Surrender is like a domino effect. You're going through life and you feel like you're supposed to surrender one part of your life. Maybe it's a sin. Maybe it's just something that everyone else can do but you can't do. And you surrender that one thing, and then you jump into that relationship with God, and then you find out, oh, that was just the beginning. That was a trick. It was just the beginning. It's like the domino effect. And for me, my time, having to surrender my time and give myself to the word and prayer, honestly, for mental stability. My parents know what I went through in the staff, and I stopped working, and I had a full-on nervous breakdown. I was on a high dose of a certain medication that I got hooked on because I was taking it so much, and it was rough, to say the least. And not to give it glory at all, and I do not believe God even allowed it. I believe through circumstance and stuff, and not taking care of myself, not taking care of my heart, I allowed it. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me, ever. Because God always works things out for our good. It forced me into a place where I mentally thought I was in such a panic and terror. If you've ever had panic attacks or any type of thing like that, I was such a state of that. I didn't know if I was going to come out of it. And your only option in that, for instance, is either die or God's going to have to come in and do something. There's your options. Your prayer changes. Your prayer changes when you're in that predicament. I either am going to die and I want to die because I can't handle this, or God becomes God. And there's a wrestle in our lives where he becomes God and we relinquish that control. And I was forced into that position, not out of my free will, but I just had to because I didn't have any other options. And the praise is God completely changed my life. But I was handed a moment of grace where I had to make a decision that I would never go back. And I did. And so a daily surrender is different than coming to the altar and saying, I surrender all, Lord. And then you actually have to walk it out. So the daily surrender is the scariest thing in the world, but the most rewarding thing, because there's very few people on this earth that can lay their head at, and this isn't like a boasting thing. I'm trying to communicate something. The church, we've got to get a hold of this. This is our mandate. This is our destiny. This is the way we're supposed to live. And I'm not talking to you. I'm talking. I'm trying to communicate us in this earth. We've got to get to the point where we can lay our heads on our pillows at night as the church and know that we are at peace with God. And now we can say out of our mouth, I'm at peace with God. But to be able to know in your innermost being, because of the grace and the work of Christ, that you can lay your head on your pillow and say, I'm at peace with God. What does peace with God look like? Peace with God looks like, Jesus said to the religious leaders, you cannot fully see me or know me because you like the praises of men more than the praises of God. Being at peace with God says whatever people think or say is fine. What God says is what's important to me.